Hello guys, good afternoon. This is Nikki, also known as Face Trader, and you're watching the September 24 market update. Okay, it's 9:24. Let's see. The market today in the Philippines is 5845, down 46 points. You've got some winners, you've got some losers. So let's take a look at your index. So again, this is just a rendition. Para like palagi naman to, guys. Market value 3.95 billion pesos. Most stocks are down, financials, PSEI, all industrials are up though. Holdings are down, properties are down. Sector-wise, mining, services is up. So industrials and services are up. 76 advancers, 120 decliners. You've got 292 million foreign selling. So who are the losers for the day? You've got JG Summit, First Gen, Mega World Security Bank down 2-3%. Your Bloomberry and Pure Gold are up 2%, 2%. ICT up 2%, URC up 1%. Take a look at your winners and losers for the day. Top gainers for the day, Philex Petroleum is up 5%, 22 million, 545. Not a lot of volume actually, even if it's up 15 million, up for Bloomberry. So 672 is now back to 690. You've got, what's this? Okay, Pure Gold, 159 million pesos, 48.4 now, 49.45. Good job. And then ICT is back to 107. So we are seeing that the market, who initially sold down Pure Gold from 50 all the way down to about 47, have been starting to pick it up. When it was down, people are buying it, 47, 48. It's now at 49. Where's losers? Okay, so losers for the day with the big volume, it's got Apex. So Apex mining is now 135. That is a big drop for Apex. So 33 million. It's now trading at 135. Used to trade at about 160. It's really fallen down, fallen to 135. Now, JG Summit is down to 60 pesos, 55 cents, 72 million pesos. You've got First Gen and Philex Mining, 386, 382 for Philex Mining. It was 430. We were noticing that there was some profit taking on the 4 peso level. So gold stocks, let's see. Gold has been falling down. MEH is down, and then Nickel Asia is down as well, 3% from 310 to 3 pesos. That is a little bit just related to how Tesla Battery Day was an underperform on expectations. I'll discuss that later, market update. Now, yeah, so for your most active space today, your most actives, Mary Mart and SM Prime are down 314. So SM Prime could not even break 30 pesos. It's now back to 28.35. Your URC is 135. Ayala Land is just hanging, but still 29.95 now, below 30 pesos. Your PLDT is 1370. SM is below 900. Pure Gold is trying to go up to 50 pesos. Metro Bank is 36.50. Your Now Corp is continually down. So as you could see, from 4, it's now 3, and then it's 3. Tomorrow it's 2. I don't know. It could. Mega World 250. So no, sorry, Mega World is 290. Baka na nagulat kayo. Nako, Mega World is 250 na lang. No. Mega World is still 290, although as you can see, properties aren't doing well. So they're just really neutral. Metrobank and BPI are 36.50 and 64. AGI 708. So hanging by, most of the companies in the Philippines are just hanging there. It's not going up. It's not going down as much. But for the ones that went down, the really big downs are the miners. Okay, so top traded for the day. Let's see. So top traded. So Mary Mart now, Dito, still in our top traded, but all on the downside. Mary Mart 313, Now Corp 307, Dito Telecom 410. So there could also be profit taking happening. BDO is still down 87.5. URC is slightly there, 135. There's not a lot of money to be made in the Philippines, as you could see. This is all red. So let's take a look at the charts. How low does the market have to go then? Okay, so we are seeing that APX is going down 135. Take a look at some of these companies. We do note that APX was a beneficiary of gold. So should we buy this name now that it's at 135? Okay, so let's take a look. So as you know, gold is quite cyclical, and APX is a function of your gold. Take a look at XAU USD. So gold has fallen from 1960 to 1850. It is back to that 1800. Let's take a look at how your Bitcoin also fell, if it hasn't. So Bitcoin also fell from 12,000 back to 10,200. It could fall to about 9,500 or even at 9,000. So that is your baseline. That means that your gold Apex has been just following the other gold miners all over the world. So gold went from about 60 cents, so APX went from 60 cents to 180. Now it's back to 135. I'd argue that here at about 120, it's actually a buying area. So we don't see that gold is a long-term downtrend. We actually see that as a support. So here at about 120 before, went to as high as 170. We made a sell rec at about 170 to 166. So actually that gap down here was a sell move. So any rallies, if you've been listening to the company, if you've been listening to our Awesome 10X every day, you know that we've given a sell recommendation. So now that it's here at about 122 to 135, I'd put a buy here. So here at about 130 to 120, these are already good buying areas. That means that if you're buying gold XAU USD, that means that Nikki is bullish when gold is at 1800 back to 1760. So does this mean that Freeport McMoran of USA has also fallen? Yes. So Freeport McMoran, this is a gold and copper of the world. We have seen it as a support buy here at about 1280. So 1260, 1280 here. It rallied to 18. Should Freeport McMoran fall here at about $13 or 10% lower, it is a buy. What I mean is that if Apex falls 10% tomorrow, I would argue a buy here. So from about 130 to 120, put a buy on Apex Mining. Now, does that mean that Felix Mining will fall? If it hasn't fallen yet, then it will. So Felix Mining actually was more mover. Actually, it was about 260, 280 when we were recommending a buy. Around July, you could see that Felix Mining and gold, as you could see, it was about July. So I'm not the earliest. So it was around July. It was about 17 to 1800. I noticed that gold can go to 4. So we argued a buy there for Felix, but mostly on Apex. To be honest, I said Apex. But Felix was about 260 to 280 around that time. As you can see, from 260, it rallied to 440. It hasn't gone back to 280. So from a standpoint of how low things can go, I'd say that Felix Mining can go to 3 pesos. It can fall there. Will it go to 3 pesos? Will it go to 280? It could. I will wait for it to go down. If it doesn't, then it's fine. I don't need to have it. That means that yes, it is cyclical. If you haven't gotten out of your Felix Mining, watch out because it looks like this is a resistance, and people will still sell it down even at 340 or 360. I'd assume that everyone who was smart enough would still sell. If they haven't sold at 420 or if they haven't sold at 380, they will still sell even if it goes down to 360. So you still see selling pressure for gold. That is a title. That is something that I would argue would be still sold. So if you're waiting to buy these gold issues, then wait it out. Just wait further. What else? Okay, so Gabby Lopez resigns from ABS-CBN months after it rejected franchise bid. I don't know much about what's happening, but I think that resignation opens up a potential new buyer, but it's nothing. Like, we can't say anything much about this. It's just 7 pesos. I don't want to speculate on companies that I have no knowledge about. I'd rather invest in companies that I could predict. And so that is something that I would argue is not no touch. Let's take a look at URC. URC is 135. So we are seeing that URC, after falling from 145, got bought out here at 132. That said, can it go to 120? It also can. So here it's no man's land. It can go up, go down. What happened to Jollibee after hitting 138? So far, it's just there, steady 138. It could also be resistance here at 150. So steady lang yan. What's happening with your JG Summit? JG Summit is back to 60 pesos. I'd argue that sure, at 60 pesos, some people would take profit if they bought at 48. Nonetheless, JG Summit owns your URC, owns your RLC, owns your Cebu Pacific, so owns your RHI. I'd argue that this is the biggest mover on the downside of JG Summit. However, Cebu Pacific has already fallen from $100, from 100 pesos to 36 pesos, or over 60 to 70% drop already. I'd argue that Cebu Pacific here at about 36, even if it goes to 32, the downside is kind of priced in, so it might not go up, but I don't think it goes 20 pesos, guys. So I think like it's just here steady here about 36, 35, 32. So just stay there. As for GT Cap, after falling about 100% from 1,000 to 390. I also argue that here, even if it falls to 370, 380, I don't believe that the Philippines can be an electric vehicle future. So those who are speculating that Toyota and your Hondas and Toyotas, it has to be changed to Teslas. In the first place, the Tesla battery, they only announced that only in 2022 to 2023 can they produce as much in 3 years time. And even if they produce that much, it's not going to go to the Philippines. It's in the US, it's in China. So those arguing that GT cap should go to zero, that's not the right argument if you ask me. My argument is that GT Capital owns Metro Bank, still being used, top 2 bank of the Philippines. So if you believe that Metro Bank here at about 36, 34, 35 deserves to go 44 or 43, then you'd argue that GT Cap 390 has a future, and that future might not be 1,000 pesos, but that future is not 400 pesos either. It's probably a future of about 500 to 600. It could even go 700. So in the next 5 years, I argue that GT Cap isn't going to 100, but most likely going to go 400 to 500. From 400 going to about 500 to 600. So let's take a look at your commentaries before we answer anything more. Let's see. Ascend subscription in Buendia Christiana Holdings Corp. What is that? Sorry, I haven't read. Let's see. But Ascend is still solars. As you know, I like a lot of solars. In fact, a lot of solar companies continue to go new highs. Jinko Solar was up 20% last night after great numbers. Jinko Solar is solar panels. That just tells you that there are so many people buying solar panels for their residential homes. Not just residential homes, but also corporations. As you could see, Ascend is just long-term uptrend. I don't see any downticks. Should it go to 80, I'd see more buyers than sellers. So this is just a keep for me. News and disclosure, acquisition or disposition, AC Energy pulls out of its Australian firm Infigen. So Ayala couldn't win all the deals. But at the end of the day, AC Energy wants to be a Southeast Asian renewable energy provider. And for those who aren't aware, let me show to you some moves. So the US last night was down, but Jinko Solar was up 20% after great numbers. So if you are in the secular trend, if you're right in the right trends, it means that if you own solar names, it doesn't have to be just Jinko Solar. Let's say you own Canadian Solar, CSIQ, or you own First Solar, you should actually be aware that any drops should be a buying area. Jinko Solar, we have been discussing in our global market updates since 22-23. So as you could see, 20, 22, 23, it's now 33. For CSIQ, we have been discussing this since 22-23. And we have been saying that in that drop of about 28, that was a buying area. It's still at $30. That is still, yes, 50% higher. Now, if you're going to argue Sun Power, Sunrun, Enphase, and all these things, they're all also up. So Ascend is in a long-term uptrend. What is Buendia Christiana Holdings Corp? Is this another solar company? Or is it a renewable energy? As long as you're in the renewable energy, as long as you're in the right trend, you acquire or you dispose, it depends on your purchase acquisition. So, what's this? It's 250 million pesos. Subscription will be used to fund potential project sites. So, BCHC is a subsidiary of Ascend, a special purpose vehicle. So, countries' development projects. So, what you can only know here is that this is just Ayala Corp telling the world that we made a special purpose vehicle for less taxes so that we could invest in more projects worldwide. So that is a positive thing. So it just tells you that Ayala Corp is really investing abroad. They're putting their money in India, solar farms in India, and then Australia, and so forth. In Vietnam, diba? They made a wind farm in Vietnam. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon then. What's your opinion on SPC? So SPC, I hardly talk about this, but it does give dividends every year. But with the Philippines kasi, this one is very illiquid. So I think SPC Power is renewable. They pay dividends every year. So it has been rising because of dividends. So it fell to 6. Now it's at 10 because people bought it for dividends. As you could see, these are one of the few companies in the Philippines that have been rising in the last 5 to 10 years. So it traded at about as low as 4 pesos. Now it's about 10 pesos. 250% up just because of dividends every year. So I wouldn't buy it because at the end of the day, I would prefer buying some battered index names that I think have a 100% future, or at the very least, I could trade it 10%. So assuming, let's say that Jollibee right now is trading at 138. So I bought some, I'll be honest, I bought some at 133. Even if Jollibee went to 125, I argue that, well, not only will I make 50% here if I hold this longer, I can also make dividends because Jollibee pays dividends. So at the end of the day, I'm not huge on dividends. I'll be honest, I don't buy companies for dividends. I buy it because I think I can make money, even if they don't pay dividends. So SPC, I know it's just a dividend play. Implications of Tesla saying they're going to make cobalt-free nickel-intensive batteries in Nickel Asia. So Tesla said that they won't be then actually they won't. They said that they won't depend a lot on lithium miners, meaning they will mine it themselves if they can. They'll just buy a mine. Tesla has $400 billion. Okay, if you are that rich, okay, you can say, it's not $400 billion today; it's $350 billion. That is still $350 billion. They have $5 billion in free cash. They can buy a lot of miners today and buy it for themselves. So we know that they need lithium, nickel, and cobalt. And in the next 7 years, they might not need it. But that's 7 years. That's not 7 months. So if you're going to produce vehicles in the next 2 to 3 years, I'll tell you what, it has lithium, it has cobalt, it has nickel. So it's not dead for Nickel Asia. I would argue that if Nickel Asia falls 20% down because of people assuming that Tesla will not need nickel, that is a wrong assumption. Also, nickel is needed for steel. And a lot of manufacturers, not just Tesla, guys, we're talking about all the electric vehicles in the world, need lithium, they need cobalt, they need nickel. So if they're not going to source it from Nickel Asia, where will they source it? You have to understand that these miners have a play, and it's not just Tesla alone. What is your conservative target price for us in the next 2 years? To be honest, I don't give targets. The answer is that I don't have any target. It could go 5 pesos, can go to 10 pesos, can go 7 pesos. I wouldn't care. All I know is that at 235, I bought ASEN. Should ASEN fall down back to my cost, then I'll think about it. But right now, I'm not in a hurry to sell. I'm not in a hurry to buy. It's just keep. Wild rides sa Mary Mart today, sell all at 331 and close 313. Grabe ang play. So we saw that the market was speculative. We saw that the market went from Now Corp to Mary Mart and Dito Telecom, and then it was speculative money, so they bought, they sold, that's it. We don't have anything to say about it. Why does value turnover in the Philippines doesn't go up? It's just so low. Well, because if you were an investor and you can buy the best companies in the world, you wouldn't go to the Philippines. That's the right answer. At 1.6 of APX, should I just sell or just hold? I'd argue that if gold goes up, Apex mining will rise. That is the reason why people will buy Apex at 120 to 135 because they think that gold is not going to go $1,200. They think that gold is going to go 2,000 to 4. So I would argue that you bought high. That means that at 1.6 Apex, that's as if you bought gold, as in the world gold price, at $2,000. Well, if you think that gold is going to go 2.4, does that mean that gold at 1.8 now, should I buy more of Apex? The answer is, you know what? At 130 to 120, yes, I'd argue yes, you should buy Apex mining. Okay, is JFC still a buy? I argue that Jollibee, like all restaurants in the world, are suffering losses, and they would take 6 months to a year to even make back all of your losses this year. So it's a long time. Jollibee will not be a momentum pick, but Jollibee will have its place in the world. So I think that the 125, 130, 135, you just buy low, and then if it goes up, you sell some with the hopes that in the next 5 years, it goes $300, 300 pesos, 250 pesos, 350 pesos. Should we buy more companies in Philippine stocks, or should we focus on global stocks? Okay, in the Philippine market, I don't have a lot of winners. I don't see a lot of 10x companies in the Philippines. Like 10x trends, maybe a few lang. ASEN, okay, 10x. URC, if they successfully conquer the entire Southeast Asia and Oceania, New Zealand, maybe it can go, but can it 10x at 150 peso? Let's say I buy it, maybe you'll make 100%. So I think that in the worldwide context, the 10x exists in the world, not in the Philippines. Let's be honest here. It's not in the Philippines. So I think like you can have a few names in the Philippines. From a worldwide portfolio perspective, 20% maybe in the Philippines, 80% in US. Some people would argue zero in the Philippines and 100% in the US. Well, that's what they want to do in their portfolio. I can't say anything because that's their portfolio. But in the end, are there values in the Philippines? Okay, if you buy Metro Bank at 35 pesos, could you sell it at 40 pesos? I think yes. I think the probability is yes. Can it go 50 pesos? Maybe. In the next 5 years, yes. So it depends on what you prefer. Will I 10x my money in Metro Bank? The answer is no. Will Philippine companies benefit on Manila Bay White Sand by Mayor Moreno? I don't know. I think not. I don't really see. I don't see any benefit. What can you say about contradicting news on Now and Mr. Eliseo? I think when you have these companies that are more speculative, I do not care about it. It goes up, it goes down. I don't make money, I don't lose money. That's it. Like I just do not care about companies that I don't have any predictions. So like I would care about companies that I own, such as C Limited. I'll talk about it, let's say later, global. But I wouldn't really care much about Now Corp. Like Now Corp can go 10 pesos, can go 1 peso. What do I care? I don't own it. Like for people who are talking about Now Corp, the DICT for telco, the fact that I don't care about it is that it's not a 10x company for me. If it's a 10x, I'll probably care. If I don't think it's a 10x, I don't care. I don't even care if people make 50% ceiling on it. Is the coronavirus still a factor in the stock market? The country looks to be back to normal, but the stock market isn't. Well, you know what? I think the Philippines, there's a lot of factors that are going to happen in the Philippines that is not just about the coronavirus. First and foremost, the valuations are compelling, but the fundamentals are not yet there. If you can argue that Ayala Land has really made more money in the next 6 months, then we can argue that, okay, I should buy Ayala Land right now at 29.95 because it's going to go 45 pesos. I think the reason why people are apprehensive buying Ayala Land, SM Prime, is that they aren't super sure about the property, even if COVID pandemic can be solved. And if you can argue, my argument is that if you are very sure that COVID pandemic is gonna be over, then it's a compelling buy to buy the Cebu Pacific because you argue that travel will go up 50% or 100% higher versus today. So that's it. It's very simple. Sometimes you should buy when you see that there is a value there. The loss is 10%, but I could win 20, 30%. Sure, I might not make 100%, but can I make more than I lose? If the answer is yes, I would argue that it is a buy. Let's assume, okay, BDO 88. Everyone in the Philippines transacts in banks. We cannot, yes, there's digital. Yes, I do GCash, Globe GCash, but I cannot do all the bank transfers just through GCash. I still need BDO to survive. So upon that knowledge, BDO, Metro Bank, BPI, they need to survive. These banks are not going to go zero. So you have to understand, making money in the market does not need you to be a rocket scientist. It does need you to have common sense. Common sense lang, guys. Which bank are you using? Are you using BDO? If not, it is the #1 largest bank in the Philippines. So no matter what you say, and the digital is happening, it's just digital fund transfers. They're not gonna lose against whom? BDO will lose against GCash, but GCash you cannot do a lot of money in GCash. It's just 2,000, 3,000 pesos, 5,000 pesos, right? You're just using it to facilitate digital transactions. And BDO does fund transfers too digitally. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Awesome 10X for you.